Hello. In this video, we'll be looking at how to automatically update and deploy a CODESYS application and maybe a splash screen to a display through the auto install or cc-auto.sh script. So how this works is the cc-auto.sh script we've talked about in a few other videos, but when you plug a USB into the display, it's going to look at the root directory of that USB, and if it sees a script named cc-auto.sh, it will automatically execute that script and perform the actions within the script. So you can use this to automatically deploy your applications on displays coming from our factory. So in development, it makes sense that you're using this CODESYS runtime or development environment that I have pulled up here, and you're connecting to the display as we've done in our previous videos. And when you're online, you can create a boot application on the display. So then every time you boot the display, it'll boot up to your CODESYS application. But when you finish development and you finally have a working product or a working piece of software, you don't want to connect to every display that you get in and create a boot application on that display and modify different components. For instance, if you have a splash screen on it, you don't want to have to put the picture on every display and modify scripts to start up. So you can automate all of this through a script file and simply plug in a USB into the display and have it perform all of these actions in an automated way where you don't need to do anything manually. So we've mentioned this in other videos. For instance, there's some videos that are good to watch before this. For instance, this basic scripting video here on our support site is a good one to get you the base skills that you'll need to begin writing some scripts, which we'll use in this video. And I've also mentioned the cc-auto.sh in that video. So the concepts are very similar, and we have a lot of examples of this cc-auto.sh script on our knowledge base, but through popular demand, I get a lot of questions about how to actually automate the deployment of a CODESYS application and things. So we're just going to actually go through that in this example today and just go through the process, and I'll point out some how to do it and some things. So what this assumes is this is going to assume that we are done with development in CODESYS and we have a boot application set up on our display, and most likely our display is set up to be configured how we want it. So the CODESYS is starting automatically, and probably certain other scripts are turned off. You might have a splash screen on there. So let's go through this. So I have PuTTY pulled up here, and I'm going to connect to my display. So 192.168.2.22. And there we go. Gonna expand this a bit here. So login root. I'm using a VA, but the process will be pretty much exactly the same for all of our displays. So I'm gonna come to the opt directory, and we've talked a bit about how these directories are set up in the display, so I'm not going to really go over it too much, but suffice to say, this CODESYS control directory here is what will have all of your base CODESYS files. So all of your files that support your actual application, the boot files, all of that is located in this CODESYS control directory. So we can take a look in that directory and you'll see this. So on your display, you will have all of these files, and you may have more or less of them. If you have any user-specific files, so for instance, if you're using persistent variables and you have a persistent variable file that is storing the status of your persistent variables, you may want to remove that specific file from this folder before you go forward here, because when we copy this folder, what we're going to do is we're going to compress this entire folder and copy it onto each of our other displays. And when we do that, those displays will get an exact copy of what is on your development display. And that includes any persistent variables. So if you have a persistent variable and you've stored it at 10, we'll say, or a user variable and it says its user ID is 6, whatever display that you copy it to will get that same user ID and persistent variable. So you may want to come in and remove any user specific files before compressing the folder. But what we're going to do is we are going to compress this CODESYS control folder. So we're going to use the tar command, and we're going to say tar.-cf, and then we're going to give it a name. So I'm going to name this CODESYS app.tar, how about? And then we give it the folder that we want to compress. So in this case, CODESYS control. And we can hit enter here. And now we should see our CODESYS app.tar file here. So perfect. The next thing we might want to do is copy any other supporting files. So this could be our splash screen, for instance, we might want to copy. And I don't personally have a splash screen here, so I'm not going to do that. But if you did have a splash screen, you can pull that off, and we'll go into an example of how it's used. So I'll keep PuTTY open, and I have FileZilla open here, which we've talked about in other videos. So we use FileZilla to transfer files to and from the display. So up here, if you don't know about FileZilla 2, there's a training video on how to install and use it, but it's pretty simple. So our host, again, is the IP address 192.168.2.22. Our username is root, password susroot, and port 22. And over on the right here, we have our display. So I'm going to move again to the opt directory, and I find the CODESYS tar file that we created somewhere. There it is, CODESYS app.tar. So over on the left is my host computer, and right now I'm in my downloads directory, which is fine. I can just drag this file over to the left, and you can see it's copying. And now if I check my downloads directory, we should see CODESYS app.tar. So I'm going to actually put this in another folder just so we can see. I'm just going to name this CODESYS auto deploy. And okay, so I'm going to move CODESYS app.tar in there just so it's cleaned up a bit. You don't necessarily need it in another folder, but it makes it a little easier to see what's going on. So right now we have that one file, and that is our compressed version of our CODESYS control directory, which is essentially the compiled version of our CODESYS application. If we extract this file into the opt directory of a display that has the CODESYS runtime installed, then it will auto deploy an exact copy of the CODESYS application we have installed in our development PC. Okay, so the other thing is going back to my downloads file. I also downloaded a version of the CODESYS runtime here. And I found that on our support site. So if we come into software, CODESYS, you'll see we have device runtimes here. And we have the 359 runtime, which is the first one that we've published to our support site. If you're using 354, the process is the same. Essentially, this is going to assume that on your display you have a CODESYS license written. And that was actually talked about in another video, so I won't go over it here. But I'm going to take this runtime file, the .run file, and also bring this to the CODESYS auto deploy folder. And here we have a .run file. So if you've installed or watched the other videos, we could copy this .run file over to our display and execute it, and that will install the runtime on the display. But there's a bit of a caveat that these .run files, they don't seem to auto install. So if you use them with the auto install, the cc-auto script that we're writing in this video, it won't work. You'll notice it just won't install at all. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out some component files that do actually install. So I'm gonna right click, and I have 7-zip installed. If you don't, I believe this works with other compression applications, but I'm not 100% sure. So you might wanna grab 7-zip. It's a great free compression program. So I'm gonna say open archive, and here you'll notice it is actually an archive. So I'm going to click here, click on this folder, and you'll see here we have two component files, a .sh and a .tar.gz file. So I'm going to extract these two files into my CODESYS auto deploy folder. And that's it. So now I can actually just go ahead and delete this .run file if I'd like. So I have my CODESYS application and two files that make up my my CODESYS runtime. So the idea here is we are going to auto install the CODESYS runtime, and this is going to assume you already have the license installed from our factory, which if you've ordered with CODESYS, it should be installed. So we're going to auto install the runtime and then auto install or extract our CODESYS application. And to do this, we are going to use the cc-auto.sh script. So I'm going to, you can start from an example one that we have, or you can start from scratch. So in my case, I'll start from scratch, but feel free to start from an example on our knowledge base. For instance, there's a lot of examples, I believe, in Qt. Let's see. Which ones would give us examples? Like this one, I believe, has an example script there. But like I said, I'll make mine from scratch. So I'm going to use a program called Sublime Text. So it's just a text editor, but it is important that if you use any text editor in Windows, you need to make sure that it is set to have Unix line endings. So in Sublime Text, I can come into View, and in this line endings tab, you'll see it's set to Windows. So in short, there's Windows and Unix or Linux use different line endings, and you can't see them if you create a text file in Windows, but they're there and they designate the end of a line. But if it's a Windows line ending, Linux will see it as actual characters, and it will mess up the entire script. It won't work at all. So you should use a good text editor like Notepad++, I believe, has this. But if you just try to use like the Windows basic text editor, it won't work. Like Notepad normal will not work for this. So the other option is you can use the virtual machine or any Linux environment text editor and create the file within Linux. Also, if you start with a file from our support site, I believe a lot of times it will automatically open. Like if I were to open a file in Sublime Text from our support site, then it would default to Unix line endings. So I would say you can download Sublime Text if you'd like. If not, Notepad++, but just make sure you have Unix line endings selected here. So I'm going to go ahead and change it from Windows to Unix. Okay, so we're going to start our script file out with a designation that it is a script, so a hashtag exclamation point bin/sh and hit enter. And we can go ahead and actually just save this as, and we'll save it into auto deploy and we'll call it cc-auto.sh. So the file name needs to be this exactly, or else it won't work and the displays won't find it when it's looking for it on the root directory. So we can go ahead and save that, and you'll notice this is now turned gray, so that's like a comment in the Linux script. So here we pretty much are just going to write we're going to write our commands like we're writing inside a Linux terminal. So this is kind of where the other training video kicks in, is how to write scripts, but I'm going to go through it in this case and show you how to do it. So the first thing we'll do is install the CODESYS runtime on the display. So let's go ahead and we'll comment this and say install CODESYS runtime. Okay, so assuming we're using a V-series display like a VA-RC, our USB directory is cd/media/USB. And that is when we stick in a USB, that's where the files will be located. So we're going to move to this directory. And then we are going to copy the files that we find there. So we're going to copy the web CODESYS ARM Visu Web Visu and CODESYS ARM Visu Web Visu 359 blah 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 tar.gz into the opt folder. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna say copy, and I'm gonna drag this down so I can see the names here. CODESYS _ARM _Visu Web Visu.sh. And we're going to copy that into the opt directory, and then we're going to also copy the CODESYS _ARM _Visu Web Visu _V 359 30-106.tar.gz into the opt folder. So you can see here, really, these could change. So, you know, as the making of this video, these are the latest runtimes, but obviously these will change. So you just want to make sure the names align with what you've extracted here for the two runtime files. So after these are copied, we are going to move into the opt folder, and we're just going to execute the script file. So we want to execute this CODESYS ARM Visu Web Visu file. But before we do that, we need to make sure it's executable. So I've explained executable files in other videos, so I'm not going to go through it too much, but a file just like Windows and exe file needs, in Linux, you need to tell it that it is an executable file. So we're going to say change chmod plus x and give it this file name. So this will make sure it's executable before, and then we are going to execute the file. So we are going to say period / CODESYS visu web visu in this case. So again, this runtime file, the name, you may only be using a visu and not visu web visu, or you may be using no visu. So this could change based on what you're doing. So okay, so here, this will execute and install this tar.gz file. And essentially by the end of it, it will install the entire CODESYS runtime. Okay, so that first one installs the runtime. Now we are going to install CODESYS application. Okay, so the process is similar here. So here we have this CODESYS app.tar file. So we are going to copy that and extract it into our opt directory where that folder should be placed. So here we're going to, again, move back to CD media USB, or I'll do it a different way this time. So we can just, instead of moving, we can just tell it where we want it to move. So we can say copy from media USB and the name of the file. So in this case, CODESYS app.tar is our file name. And we want to copy that into opt. So this copy command, you first tell it what file you want to copy. So here we've given it the full directory of where it's at, and it's going to copy into opt. Okay, so we've copied our tar file into the opt directory in this case. And now we can move into opt, and we want to extract our tar file. So we can say tar.xf, or I think of it as extract file, and then the file name. So CODESYS app.tar. And this will extract our CODESYS app file into the opt directory. So as you saw when we made it, if we open this up with 7-zip, you'll see it will have our CODESYS control folder and all of the supporting files that we copied from our development display. So this will make an exact copy of the folder from our development display in our new display. So that is pretty much it. So this script, when we save it, should work now to install the runtime and our whole CODESYS application on any new display. But there might be a little bit more you want to do. So what are some other things that we normally do with CODESYS? So one of the things is we generally want to turn off the settings screen that comes up by default on our displays during the boot process. So there's a video on that, so I'm not going to go into exactly how to do that, but if we come into the CD on our display again, I went back to PuTTY here, come into opt, etc, and init.d, this is where our startup scripts are. So in my case, I have the CODESYS deploy, and there's this startup GUI here. So on my screen, this is the settings, and it is going to come up. You'll notice it's this green color. But if we wanted to disable it on the screen, I would say chmod -x and startup GUI. And now you'll notice it's a gray color. So that is no longer an executable script, and it will no longer execute. So now this settings screen will not come up. And as you're getting started with CODESYS, this is pretty normal to turn this off once you've created a CODESYS boot application. So as I said, this is covered in other videos, but on new displays, this settings screen will be on. So we most likely want to turn it off. So we can do that in our script file as well. And I can say turn off settings screen. And for this, we're just going to say chmod -x, just like we did, and give it the path of that file. So that is in opt etc init.d, and it was called startup GUI, which we can see here. So on any new display that you plug this USB in, it's going to turn off this script file. Another, I mentioned that you may have a splash screen, for instance, and even though I don't have one on mine, there's actually a script file in here about auto creating splash screens, so you can actually use that as an example. There we are. So this script file actually shows how you can automatically create and put on a splash screen using a script. But in this case, we could chain that. So we could use this script to copy and put on a splash screen. So we can do a lot of different actions within the same script, and you can chain commands. So I'm actually not going to go through this because it's already covered here. But there's a lot you can do within these scripts. I would recommend, once we have saved this and you think it's good, what you should do is you should try it on your displays. And one of the things you can do on the display is factory reset your display. So I would recommend that ideally you have two different displays. You have your development display with all of your software that's working, and then you have either a new display from our factory or another development display that you don't mind doing a factory reset on. But I would recommend that you factory reset your display, because that will simulate like a display coming from our factory completely blank. And to do that, you can say rescue reboot -rescue, and then clear will factory reset the display. I'm not going to do it to mine because I have a lot of development stuff on it. But once you factory reset it, you can try out your scripts. So you should, once we've created this script, what we're going to do is just take all of these files here, these 3 files or 4 files, and put them on the root directory of a USB. And it does need to be on the root directory, so I can plug in a USB here just for making sure we're continuing this whole example. And I can say copy these files and just remove what's on there. So here's the root directory of my USB in no other folders, and just copy all 4 files on. And once they're on the root directory of the USB, you should be able to plug it into the display, and it will auto recognize this cc-auto.sh script and run it. And as we showed, that script will grab the files that we have on this in the root directory and copy them over to the display and auto extract them and install them. So when your display is factory reset, you can test this out. And what I would recommend is you put in the script, and you should see it does something. What you can also do is at the end of your script here, we can say reboot the display. And this will give you some indication then that your script is finished. So you can say reboot here, and that will reboot the display when everything has installed. So Yeah, so I mean, you're gonna plug in your USB, it's going to do all of these things, reboot your display, at which point you're going to remove the USB, because if you keep it in there, it's going to, again, the display will reboot and see the cc-auto file and then execute this again, which you don't want. All of that's installed. So you only want it executing once. So anyway, after the display has rebooted and you've removed the USB, then you can log into the display like normal via PuTTY and check to make sure that your runtime, the CODESYS runtime, is running, as we've done in other videos with PS, and you look for the CODESYS control, which mine is not running, but that's as expected on my display. But you're going to look for CODESYS control in this list to make sure the runtime is installed and running, and you're going to look for the CODESYS control file in the opt folder. So there's my CODESYS control file, so you make sure that that was extracted and installed. And if you have those files, you know, it should be all set. So just confirm that when it reboots, hopefully it should come up with your CODESYS application, but you just want to go ahead and check to make sure that all of the pieces of your script have successfully executed and placed the files as you expect on there. Okay, I think that's it for this video. In a future video, I'll cover maybe how to view these outputs on the screen. So right now, when we execute this, you'll get no real user feedback, and there is a way to do that. It's through a few lines of code. So I'll come up with an example and make a video on how to modify your scripts to be able to show some of the outputs on the screen. But hopefully this video should give you a good idea of how to set up your cc-auto.sh file to automatically install your CODESYS application and CODESYS runtime, as well as potentially do other functions that you want on new displays from our factory. All right, thanks for watching.